Hey, you guys, it's Carla and Bernadette. We're back. So sorry for the technical difficulties. Hopefully, you guys will join us again with this new broadcast. But yes, we're so sorry. I am so sorry. We're using the Be Live app, and so I'm just not sure what happened there. But I do want to have this very important conversation around autism and parents who are dealing with newly diagnosed children with autism. So Bernadette, again, can you just briefly introduce yourself really quickly so that we can get
Yes,
started?
I'm Bernadette Henry, and I'm Bernadette Henry, and I'm a mental health and an emotional wellness coach for busy working moms. And currently, I am working with moms of newly diagnosed autistic children, manage their feelings of fear, denial, guilt, anger, so that they can get their child the help that they need. I've worked as a case manager for about 20 years with different populations, the mental health population, adults with chronic illnesses. I'm married. I have 3 small children under the age of 12, and actually 2 of them are special needs children. I'm actually going through the process all over again for my youngest child. And I'm a master jump rope instructor at Make It Fun NYC, where I teach classes to adults just wanting to have fun and do something new. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you so much for sharing that again. So I wanted to bring you on to have this conversation about autism because I think that people need to understand what parents who have children with autism, what they're dealing with, and how we can be more sensitive to parents and families. So can you talk a little bit about what autism is? I know that there's a spectrum. So let's talk about like exactly what that means when someone says my child is on the spectrum.
Yeah, so basically autism is basically a neurological disorder, and it's characterized by social impairments, cognitive impairments, communication difficulties, and repetitive behaviors. And through the years, like autism has been around for a very long time, but people think that it's something new that just occurred, and it hasn't been. Right. It's been around since it's actually, I think, originated in Germany and was around, I believe, during the World War II period. And until the 1940s, actually, is when they came up with a name for it, which was autism. And it's basically described a different pattern of behaviors. Okay. And throughout the years, autism went through so many different name changes. So it was autism, and then we had Asperger's, which was basically a term used to describe people with highly functioning autism, because now I actually use that term lightly. And now it's considered autism spectrum, autism 1, 2, and 3. And the reason why they did it that way is because autism is a spectrum disorder. So you can have it range from like a low functioning period to a high functioning. And when a lot of people think of autism, they think of Rain Man in the movie, right, where he was institutionalized, he had these behaviors. And quite honestly speaking, all or most autistic children or adults that have this diagnosis, they a lot of these behaviors are common, and it just varies to a different degree, depending on which person it is. And how well someone copes with it and things like that. So it's called the spectrum because I think no matter where the person falls, they're still going to have these difficulties with social, cognitive communication, and certain behaviors.
Okay. So so what's the best word to use when you say, is it neurotypical? Is that the opposite of someone who's like struggling with mental like a difficulty, like an autistic child, or
right? So neurotypical
or normal.
So neurotypical is basically normal.
Okay.
And then atypical neurotypical, that's usually someone who really is considered quote unquote normal.
Okay. So do you find that some parents feel like it's their fault that their child has autism?
Oh, yes. It's really a guilt factor, especially a lot of parents that are new to this. It's really a guilt factor. And it's a process of trying to overcome. So a lot of times the parents may be like, okay, am I too old? Or what was I doing when I was pregnant? Because, a lot of women don't find out they're pregnant until they're like maybe 8 weeks or so. So they start to think of like, what was I doing? How did I live life? And just all of these thoughts just to try to put it on you. And a lot of times it's really not your fault.
Okay.
But a parent is going to continue to think that until they really figure out what caused it.
Okay. So when you start to see certain signs, like what should a parent do? Should they do, like, is early detection, is that helpful?
Yes, what I would say is, and this is something I started thinking about a lot now. Like, there's a lot of information out there right now, but when parents see something different about their child, the first thing is not, oh, my child is autistic. Like, nobody thinks that. So the first time I went around, I went through this phase with my child. I went through it kind of the hard way. So someone says a social worker has suggested early intervention. She didn't tell me why. And I was just like, I'm not going to get it, because I guess he wasn't speaking as much as he should have. And then the second time, she's like, hey, did you do it? I'm like, no, I didn't do it. But then I said, like, you know what, let me make an appointment. I made an appointment. He was denied early intervention. I was like, okay, everything's cool. Still not thinking that she told me that maybe because maybe at the time she thought it was autism. I don't know.
Can I ask you something real quick though? What was it that you were seeing?
I was seeing, well, at that time, I didn't see anything at 2 years old. Like, she just suggested, because I guess based on what she knows, he was supposed to be saying a lot more words than he was saying. He was supposed to start saying simple sentences. So at that time, I guess that's what she didn't see. Like I said, I thought everything was perfectly fine. Even when he was denied early intervention, I still didn't think anything was going on. So with him, I really didn't start seeing things or different behaviors, or I thought something was different, because that's usually where it starts. Something is different, because and autism, children, you can start seeing the signs as early as 18 months. But most times as parents, we take that as, oh, this is toddler behavior, this is normal behavior, the child is going to grow out of this. So you just really don't see it. And I really didn't start seeing that something was different until my child was in preschool, when he was around socially. So that's when we had a lot of kicking and hitting and biting and banging and breaking, all of these different behaviors, and then the tantruming. And of course, in the autistic world, it's called meltdowns, because it's a total different. But these are the things where I started seeing, okay, something is definitely way different. And even until that time, I still didn't think autism, until I finally took him to a clinic. And I explained the signs to the clinician at the time, and she wasn't a psychologist. I mean, she wasn't a psychiatrist, but she was a psychologist. And based on the signs, she said, hey, it sounds like Asperger's. And that's when autism was introduced into my world.
Okay. And so you're married, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And so how did you and your husband handle that? Like, you guys talked about it and like found
this child in particular, where we were married, he was, my child's father. And at the time, he blamed me for everything. Oh, and we weren't living together at the time. But, he would say things like, oh, you're just not organized, you're doing things wrong, you're parenting wrong. And, looking back at it, it's basically the denial phase that he had to go through for a very long time.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, I really had no support. It was, I really had no support.
That's hard. It's interesting, because I remember one day, it was probably like, I don't know, a couple years ago, I was in the store and I saw this child in a stroller, and the child was pretty big for this umbrella stroller, and she was having a meltdown. Okay, and so she was having a meltdown, and she wanted a sucker, and she was kicking and screaming, and so her mom was just like, she looked so frustrated, and then she gave her the sucker. And I came and I went and put a post on Facebook, like, people shouldn't give in to their children, and this girl, this child shouldn't have been in this. I felt so terrible, because some of my friends on Facebook who have children who are on the spectrum, they were like, you don't even know what's going on with that child. And in my head, I'm like, oh, that child just needs to be disciplined. Like, shame on that for giving her that sucker when she should have just told her no. She said no in the first place, and I'm like, so people are coming at me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so terrible. And that's why I think this is such an important topic to have, because we don't understand, and it's not right to make those kind of judgment calls when you don't have any idea what's going on with that parent. So, my question to you is, I have a question about, like, what are some of the things not to say to parents who have children with autism? What are some of the crazy things that people have said to you that don't feel so great, you know? Just trying to help people be a little bit more understanding and a little bit more sensitive to this.
It's so funny. I did a video about this. Some things that you shouldn't say is like, have you tried CBD oil, or have you tried changing the diet, or have you tried taking the child to the park? Have you tried not giving your child injections? What else? God don't give you more than you can bear.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh.
Other things like, are your other children autistic too? It's just so many crazy things, and especially to a parent that's not seasoned, the parent that is just trying to get used to this idea. Like, oh, have you tried beating his ass? That's the best one. Have you tried beating it? You know, and these are some of the things that can be very offensive to a parent that's still unsure in their feelings about it.
Sure.
You know, it's really hard. But like a person, you know, a parent that's been going through it, you know, we can kind of answer these, you know, questions with grace. But yeah, it's just a lot of things you should, because our parenting is way different from parenting a neurotypical child. So what works for a neurotypical child is not going to work for an autistic child at all.
Okay. So what, as a coach, you know, for moms with newly diagnosed children with autism, how do you help them with self-care? Because I mean, I'm sure that it's a lot to hear that your child is on the spectrum, and I'm sure that sometimes you might feel like, you know, you want to blame yourself, like you were saying, and you don't have the support you need. So what do you do as a coach for those moms?
As a coach, I basically take on the role of listening to the frustrations, because as an autism mom, a lot of times you cannot go to your girlfriend, you cannot go to your family, you cannot go to anybody to talk about it, because people already are uninformed about what autism is, what the signs are, how to cope. And basically, a lot of times these moms just need somebody to talk to, somebody to vent to. I provide that. I provide support. I provide validation, because all of these feelings that you're going through, it's normal. Like, it's normal because you were not expecting to have this. And now your life really takes on a different meaning. And then within yourself, because you feel terrible as that parent. And it's crazy that I just read a statistic the other day that autism moms have one of the higher rates of suicide.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yes, and it was extremely shocking, just because, you know, of the depression that comes along with it, the judgment that comes along with the shame, the pride. And I provide that support. I provide a listening ear, and I provide resources.
Okay. We have a comment here, and she said, Bernadette is awesome. Thank you for having her on to share her knowledge with us, Bernadette Henry. Thank you for always being so real and highlighting all of these issues. So thank you so much for that comment, Ashani. I appreciate that so much. And then we have another comment here. It says, if they're not living with it, they really can't relate to the struggles of an autism mom.
Right.
This is true. And again, going back to, you know, what I said when I noticed the child having a meltdown in the store, you know, you just automatically go to, oh, what kind of parenting is that parenting?
Yeah.
What's happening there? So,
and it's funny just to piggyback on that. I remember I took my son when he was younger, and I think I was still like kind of going through the beginning stages of this, but we were in a barbershop, and he just had the worst meltdown, and the people were looking like, and I'm just like, you know, he's autistic, and they're like, oh, don't put these labels on these children, don't blame this, the Black people, they're trying to kill us all. And you know, people just say some real ignorant things sometimes, and I've learned as I, you know, do more research, because like I said, autism has been around since like the 40s, before the 1940s. Right. And, you know, it's just people just say some ignorant things, and it's just a matter of just like really tuning it out.
Yeah. T. Hill says, the women that I've known to have autistic children have been very strong women. Bernadette, I commend you for your strength as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that comment, T. Hill. And then Ashley Wilson says, oh, she has a question. I have a kid I believe is on the spectrum. What would you say the first step is to getting help or tested?
If your child is under 3 years old, early intervention. Early intervention is a miracle. And all you really need is, if you're close with your child's pediatrician, go to your child's doctor, explain to them the different signs that you see and the behaviors, and just, share your genuine concern and ask them, hey, should I get the child tested for early intervention? If you're not happy with the answer, go do it anyway. Early intervention is free. Early intervention is free. And currently I have a 2-year-old. He's actually going to be 3 years old next month. And I had no clue that he would be autistic as well. So what happened was I took him to a 2-year-old wellness checkup. The doctor said, hey, he's not talking enough. I thought he was, but the doctor said he's not talking enough. And because of the history of my older child that is on a spectrum, he said, hey, get him tested for early intervention. This time I didn't hesitate. I said, you know what? Whatever. He wasn't in daycare at the time. As soon as I got out to the lobby area, I called, I scheduled an appointment. Guess what? He's in early intervention. And the great thing about early intervention, because like I said, my older son, I had to learn the hard way. I really had to learn the hard way. So with early intervention, even now I look at my son and all the progress he's made. And I'm just like, okay, is he really autistic? But this just witnesses to the power of early intervention and getting the treatment early. And it's not to say that he's cured, but it's to say that we were able to intervene and get him the things that he needed to thrive, really.
Okay. A lot of, I feel like I hear a lot of moms who I know now with children who are on the spectrum, they feel like they're doing more work than the husband. Is there a way or any suggestion that you have for maybe fathers to be a little bit more involved, or how a mom may be able to kind of, because we're nurturers by nature, so just
right.
How can we kind of get the fathers a little bit more involved in this?
I would just say, to ensure that, because at the end of the day, this is your child first.
Sure.
So I think that you just see this as your child and you govern yourself accordingly. So me, even though I do have my 2 children that are diagnosed, with autism, I really don't see them as my children with autism. I see them as my children. And I make it a point, and it's not to say that I dismiss the autism, because it's going to be there regardless. But I found a way to kind of normalize my household the way I would want it to be, their autism or not. And once you know that your child is autistic, you know what their triggers are, and you just kind of find a way to govern your house knowing their symptoms and how to get around them. So for instance, because the child is never ever, no matter how much services and help and early intervention and treatment you get, there's never going to be an easy day. The days are hard, but we cope with them. So for example, if I know my child likes to sit at the same spot in the same green chair every day, then I'm going to ensure that green chair is in that same spot every day, because I know that moving the chair or putting a different color chair there may cause a meltdown. It's little simple things like that you try to do in your household to try to normalize it for you based on your child's condition. So answering the question with the father, I would say to just, make him aware of the signs and the symptoms. And, you can ask him to come to an IEP meeting or two. Yeah. But just like, neurotypical children, most of the time it's the mothers that's going to meetings. If they call and say, can you pick your child up? It's us that's going. We take our kids to the doctor. So I think it's just a matter of sharing the knowledge that you know with your spouse, and then kind of going accordingly. Because, my husband, he's Caribbean. And, Caribbean people do not believe in they do not believe in Asperger's, autism, ADHD. They don't believe in any of it. Yeah. So, and God bless my husband, that took on his role as stepdad with my child. And he had to learn. Like, I didn't try to force it on him. And he's like, oh, nothing wrong with him. He's all right. But he had to see things for himself. And sometimes it's still a little challenging with him, but he's able to manage it. He's seeing these little things, like even like the baby, you know, he's going through sensory issues right now. So when something is too loud, he goes like this. And my husband's like, oh, okay, I see it's too loud. He doesn't like it. So it's just a matter of helping your spouse to see the little simple things that can help the household run smoother.
Okay, that's great advice. Thomas says, Bernadette, what is your advice to women who are single mothers to autistic children and dating? That's a great question.
Yes, because I actually, with my oldest son, I was actually a single mom. I would say if you're, whatever state you're in, wherever you live, and I know in New York, there are an abundance of services. You have respite services that will come and they will take your child for a while. They will babysit your child for a while. So take advantage of whatever services that you have and let them watch your child while you're dating. Do not introduce your child to like every single person that you're dating, because autistic children, they thrive over relationships.
Okay.
So if you're gonna be with Harry today, don't introduce your child to Harry if you know that you're gonna be with Tom tomorrow. Because believe me, this child every single day, where's Harry? Remember when we played basketball with Harry?
Okay.
And 5 years later, you probably married to Joe and they still asking about Harry.
Right.
So I would say that if you're dating, do not get the child involved. Only get the child involved if you know that this relationship is gonna go further. Other than that, have the child watched by someone else while you're dating, because they will bring Joe back to remembrance in 10 years.
Can I ask you a question about the dating? When do you tell the person you're dating about your child's special needs?
If it's necessary, like I said, if it's not necessary, I wouldn't really say that you have to express it at that time. Okay. But if you want, you can say, you know, I am a mom of an autistic child, and basically you let them know that this is your child and you're able to deal with most of the issues that come along with it. Your child is receiving treatment, your child goes to school. So I think it would be the same as having a neurotypical child.
Sure. Okay. So can I go back to Ashley? So Ashley, she was asking about early intervention and all that, because she said she feels like she may have a child who is on the spectrum. I see in the comments that she said her child is 12. So I guess the question is, what did she do with the 12-year-old?
With the 12-year-old, what you can do is write down all of your concerns, speak to the pediatrician about it, and see what services that you can get. Also speak to the school and ask them about getting an IEP done.
Okay.
Which is the individual education plan, because there are a lot of people that are diagnosed in their teens and adulthood.
Okay. So is I know we had some notes, we had to start a new broadcast, and I don't want to forget anything really important that we wanted to discuss, and I'm sure you have notes as well. Is there anything else that you have that I haven't yet asked you about this topic?
Well, look at this. I have the outline here.
Good.
So this is basically the email that I sent you. So how do I know if my child is diagnosed with autism? I believe we covered that already. What does an autistic child look like? There is no look to autism.
No.
There's no look to autism. There is no look to autism. Children, like I said, children or adults, they will watch Rain Man and they will think that's what autism look like. Or people will see someone with MRDD and they would think that's what autism look like. Most times you really cannot tell that someone is autistic until you see behaviors.
Okay.
So with my son, you can look at all three of my sons and you don't even know which one of my sons is autistic. But once, he starts to open his mouth, or once he starts, and it's not to say that he's going to say anything bad, but if you have a conversation with him, he's going to have his own agenda. It doesn't matter what you say, he's going to have his own agenda. Or he may talk about sharks or Mario, the things that you find weird. So those are kind of the signs. Or if you see certain behaviors, that's how you really tell us through behaviors, not a look.
Okay. Signe has a question. Raising a child is a lifelong journey. We have a son on the spectrum who is now 21. for my husband and I, joining the support group was key. It helped us to make it from month to month. So I'm hearing that there are a lot of support groups out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of support groups out there, and that's actually what I do as well. I have a support group, and what I'm doing now is because, my son, like I said, he's considered high functioning autistic. Okay. So in my mind, years ago, and to me, like high functioning basically means he can get himself dressed, he can feed himself, he can talk, he can go to school, he can do his homework. So basically, he can function, in society, but I had to, and I thought, years ago that, okay, he's so high functioning, he doesn't need these services. But it's like, regardless of how well he's doing, I still go through struggles every single day. Like him getting dressed in the morning, I have to be there to redirect him, to help him hurry because he moves very slow. And, I always have to kind of be the referee between him and his brothers because there's always meltdowns and fights over toys and things of that nature. And just up to a couple of weeks ago, I'm starting to apply for all of these services. And they have, especially in New York City, they have people that will help you with your child from basically onset of diagnosis until for the rest of their life. So they do have programs out here in New York where if your child is on the spectrum and they're trying to go to college, they will give them support systems in college. They will help them with apartments. If they can't pay bills, they will help them with their bills. There's so many services out there. There's career coaches that will take your child out in the community for a couple of hours a day to teach them how to be social. So I know, I'm not up to that point yet where I have an adult that's autistic, but in New York City, I know they have these services that are a huge support to older children and adults.
I think that's great. And is there support for siblings? So I know, like, if you have a child who has special needs, a lot of times some of the other children may often feel like they're not getting the same kind of attention because they may not need as much assistance. And so my question for you is, if there's a family with one child who has autism and then the other children do not, how do you make sure that you're also, meeting the needs of those other children? Because I'm sure some parents may feel really, really challenged with that.
Right. And I think that probably based on the severity of the diagnosis of the autism, it would be different for each family. But It just goes back to what I was saying before and really trying to normalize your house and seeing these as just your children. I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying this to dismiss the diagnosis at all, but knowing how to, being aware of the signs and symptoms and being able to normalize your household with their signs and symptoms in mind. So, like I said, I have one child, my oldest is neurotypical, the other two are on the spectrum. And my older son, he does a phenomenal job with my two kids. Of course, they have their little sibling thing that they're going to do, but he's aware of the autism because I let them know about it. Even my son that's autistic, he's 9 years old. He knows that he's autistic and he knows, or he's aware of some of the signs and symptoms. And so is my oldest son. So it's a matter, like I said, of knowing and teaching everybody in your house how to manage and just live around it. And what I'd say too, let professionals do their job. Okay. If your child goes to school and they have OT therapy, if they have speech therapy, if they have their teachers, if they have any services outside of the home, let them do their job. Don't try to become that occupational therapist, that speech therapist, that teacher. You're the child's mom. Be the child's mom. Okay. And I think that would help you get through a lot of things, within the household.
Mm-hmm. And for moms, like, can we just, as we're winding down, can we talk about just ways that they can do self-care, just so they, feel like they're still taking care of themselves?
I would say it depends on what you like. So, if you have a few girlfriends, go out for a girls' night out, from time to time if you can. If you like music, go in your car, have a concert in your car for a little while. Yeah. If you like to work out, go to a restaurant. Try to find, and also to let, even before I even talk about that, you have to realize that at the end of the day, your child is your child. And a lot of times, moms, we get so caught up that like we're the only ones that can take care of our child. It's not so. As long as you're able to explain to people, and as long as you're in full acceptance of what your child is going through, you can start to entrust other people to care for your child. And I think that's kind of where we block ourselves, is that we think we're the hero. We think we are the superpower. We think that we are like the almighty for our kids. No, let people help. If you have a support system that's willing to take your child for a few hours, let them take your child for a few hours. You know, and like I said, if you're in New York and you have these respite care services, call them. That's what they're there for. Let them hang out with your child for a while, but you have to be willing to just let go a little so that you can maybe, even if you have to just stay in your house on a Sunday and do nothing all day, that's self-care. Because you just have a little time for yourself to just be there. You don't have to be here and think that your child cannot do anything because of their condition. Like I said, your child is your child. And at the end of the day, that's what you have to see your child as, a child.
Yeah, that's good advice. And, you know, I think the other thing to remember is when you do go out with your girlfriends, like you don't have to talk about it, you know, go out and have a good time, because I think so often, you know, we get together with our girlfriends and we talk about the negative things. I'm not saying that a child with autism is negative, but the things that are weighing us down. We talk about it for so long and we don't spend any of that time together talking about things that aren't weighing us down, things that are going right, things that are wonderful, you know. So I think it's important, like when I go on my hikes with my girlfriends, I'm like, we're not gonna sit out here and we're not gonna melt that the whole time we're on this hike, okay? We're gonna talk about like all the great things that are going on. And yeah, celebrate some of the great things that are going on with your child, but also just know that that time is for you. To, you know, to rejuvenate and to really
get. We're still individuals.
Yes, yes. Okay, so I want to tell people how to find you and talk about some of the things that you have going on right now, just in case somebody wants to work with you. I'm going to have to type all that stuff back in. I do have your website, though, so we can start with that and tell them what's on your website. So here's your website information. Hopefully it'll show. All right, so go ahead, Bernadette. What can they find on your website?
I have a lot of work to do on my website. My website is BernadetteTHenry.com. And if you go on the first page, there's an ebook for 10 ways to manage stress as a busy working mom. So this is outside of autism, but as moms, we're stressed. I am a mental health and emotional wellness coach. So my main thing is dealing with moms and how they feel mentally, emotionally, and physically. So that's there. I have coaching, which needs to go on there, but you know, a lot of that is on my social media. But I work with moms individually and in a group setting. I also have a webinar that's on my website. So it's called From Suspecting to Accepting, Managing Your Feelings of Denial, Anger, Grief, and Guilt after your child is diagnosed with autism. That's there on a site for you to see. I also have free discovery calls for 15 minutes. If you want to specifically discuss your concern with me, you're welcome to call me. I have limited spots available per month. I also have, you know, where someone, if they want to just work with me, we'll work on a strategy for a specific goal that you want to reach. I have a blog there on the website. I have a podcast.
That's a lot. You are superwoman. I mean, I'm telling you. Are you still doing case management?
Yes, that's my full-time job.
Oh my goodness. You guys, this lady does case management, she does coaching, and she also does jump rope. I mean, superwoman, definitely. Can you tell everybody where to find you on Instagram?
Yes, Instagram, you can find me at Instagram.com/Bernadette T. Henry. And I post there religiously, whether it's on my profile or my Instagram stories, you're always going to see something there.
Okay, so your ID is Bernadette T. Henry, correct?
Yes.
Okay, you guys definitely follow her on Instagram. She has so many stories. I saw a story that you had up, I think it was either today or yesterday, where your child was on the playground. Is that what
actually, this was actually in 2014 when he started banging his head on the bathtub. I didn't even explain the story, but that's basically, you know, the day that that week he started banging his head on the bathtub, and on a particular day he ended up gashing his head open, and I had to take him for stitches. And the next day I said, you know what? I got to find out what's going on. Okay. And that's when I took him to a clinic. And that's kind of when I started the process of the diagnosis.
Okay. But you had been suspecting some things before that?
Right, correct. I was. The school was, I was, but nobody was telling me really what it was. So finally, once that happened, I said, okay, that's it. Because, before then, he broke like 5 tablets. He used to break my dishes. He would like bang his head on the floor, the wall, have tragic meltdowns. Hitting people, kicking people, biting people. I mean, if you see him today, it's a total different story, but this is what I had to go through in those beginning stages without early intervention.
Yeah. This has been so eye-opening, and I think, like I said, very important, because we all need to understand, whether we have a child with autism or somebody we know, or even a stranger, like the person that I saw at the drugstore with the sucker. We all need to understand like different things that people are dealing with when it comes to their children. I mean, it's just not our place to make judgment calls. And like I said, I feel really bad for doing it that day, but now I get it, and I won't do that again. So,
and you know what? I also think that it's important for children, for you to tell your children about autism. Just like about maybe 3 weeks ago, I took my son to the park, and he has an unconventional way of playing with kids. So I don't know what it was like. He was like jumping up and down, like I guess he thought he was part of another group that was playing a game, and they just kept looking at him. Like every time they passed, he would do it, and they would just look at him. So, but they didn't say anything about him, And so when he moved to the other side, and I kind of saw the kids, and I'm saying, "Hey, you ever heard of autism?" And they're like, "Oh yeah." I'm like, "That's my son." And it's like, "Oh, okay." So I'm just like, "Excuse the behavior. He means no harm." But I think that it was critical that these kids actually knew what autism was, because had I been maybe in a different neighborhood, they would have probably teased him, hit him, everything. So I think also, in addition to, moms that don't have autistic children, be aware that it's important that we teach our children that there are certain children that are just different.
Yeah. Do you have any books that you can recommend? Are there any books for small children that can learn about children with autism, or have you not seen those?
No, I've actually seen books. I can't pull the titles offhand right now, but what I do quite often do with my son is YouTube. I always go on YouTube and we'll watch videos on autism.
Okay. Yeah, I think very much so that children need to know. I remember my son was in elementary school, and he befriended a child who had autism, and he would spend his lunch and go and hang out with him. And it was a really beautiful relationship. And I remember he got this note from the principal and from the child's parents about how much they appreciated that. And, and I think that just came from me, because I used to work with adults with developmental disabilities, and I would take my son to work with me sometimes so that he could meet the 3 individuals that I was working with. And I think that kind of like made him more aware that people are different. And so when he found a little boy at school, it was a very loving relationship that they had. And I just thought that was really beautiful. So I think more parents, definitely, like you said, they should introduce their children to autism, just so they know what it is. And they can also be understanding and loving and inclusive. Because that's the thing, you want to include other children. Everybody's different, Autism isn't the only thing that makes us different. We're all different. So inclusion is really, really important. All right, so I don't want to keep you much longer. Do you have anything else to add before we go? Again, I really apologize for the technical difficulties at the beginning. But yeah, do you have anything else to add? Did we miss anything really important? I think we got everything.
No, I think basically we covered a lot of things here, and like I said, this will be live here, so if anybody have any questions, feel free to pop them in the comments. But I would just say the biggest takeaway is that once you fully accept your child's diagnosis, you'll have a better time managing not just yourself, but your family, your home, and you'll just feel better and your child. You'll feel better. It'll just make everything go a little better. Not every single day is going to be smooth, but you kind of learn to manage. Autistic children will teach you a lot of patience, a whole lot of
I'm
patience.
sure.
So you get that, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Like she said, you guys, if you have any questions, please put them in the comment section. She will be looking at the comments periodically, and so will I. While I may not be able to answer all of them, if I do see the question and I notice that she hasn't seen it, I will tag her in the question and we'll be able to answer that for you. But most importantly, please follow her on Instagram. Because that's where you're going to get more Bernadette. You'll also see her with her fantastic jump rope, and you'll get more information about her as a coach and about autism. So definitely follow her on Instagram. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I am GYSB Movement on Instagram, GYSB Movement. That stands for Get Your Sexy Back. So I would love to have you follow me as well. I will see you back here next Sunday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, thank you guys so much. Early intervention has been a miracle for us, says Danny. Thank you for your comments, Danny. I'm glad that you did the early intervention, and I'm glad that it's been working well for you. All right, you guys, we'll see you later. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.